Hello and welcome back to Aetheral Space 8.25. Full dark, no stars. We are back.
Full dark, no stars. Full dark, no stars. What's up?
We are back. Darnell's back! After his long hiatus when he was replaced by the alternate.
Question mark, question mark? Oh, is that an Epic Mandela catalog reference?
It was actually. Did you catch it?
I did. I'm kind of hip and cool with the kids, okay? I know what SCP people like, and it's the Mandela catalog right now.
He posted himself in me in front of a church like, OMG, they made Mandela catalog real.
The fucking sus Jesus image, or whatever. It's so funny, dude. Okay.
Looks like the priest was a big fan of the Mandela catalog is all I'll say.
Alright, you ready for this?
Yeah. What happened last time?
What happened last... No, you tell me.
Well, the battle began. Blur came in, they were fighting. They were chopping limbs off each other. There was a
That's right.
bit where Dragan shot luminescence at him and pinned into a wall, but then the second ring of his special clock came out.
Yeah, I remember because Korgo was talking about, like, what do you think the special ring is? And I was like, I don't know. One idea they had that I thought was cool is that it might be, like, mix and match, so you can be, like, cogitant and pugnant, or, like, double cogitant for, like, becoming even more Dragon-like, even closer to Reddit. Stuff like that. But I'm curious what you got up your sleeve.
We can beat him with Muzazi. Actually, you can't.
Double Dragon be like mystery route in Umineko. Wow. Alright. Actually, is magic a thing in Aetheral Space? Is Aether kind of like magic?
It's kind of like magic, I guess.
Nice. Magicians must have it so easy. It's like, oh, let me guess, your secret's Aether. And they're like, no.
Actually, I just
Not
simply
really.
put little bugs inside your eyeballs that make you hallucinate.
That's a new one. Alright, let's stop stalling. We're already like...
Your brain matter's already deteriorated.
I can't believe this. The Jeep plowed through the first wave of repurposed, meat and limbs flying every which way. Skipper, mounting the bonnet, fired repeated heartbeat shotguns ahead of them to clear as much of a path as possible. Ruth crouched behind him, claws buried in the metal for purchase, her eyes flicking around as she waited to be needed. Skipper wrinkled his nose in disgust at the human tide. The repurposed of White Village had mutated further since he'd last seen them. Last time, they'd at least been recognizable as people, but no longer. Their skin was layered and curled like rotting wallpaper, piles of epidermis attempting to regenerate on top of each other. Eyes and tiny wiggling fingers grew directly out of their body, sometimes into solid protruding structures like coral. Through their open, screaming mouths, Skipper could see new skulls waiting to burrow free. Poor bastards. Heartbeat shotgun! Although the repurposed were mostly eviscerated by the speed of the vehicle and Skipper's attacks, some chunks got caught in the workings of the Jeep, quickly beginning to regenerate back into their full forms. Ruth didn't hesitate. Like a predatory insect, she scuttled across the outside of the speeding vehicle, slicing meat and nerves free to be pushed away by the wind. Ruth was efficient, but she wouldn't be able to do that forever. Eventually, the repurposed would accumulate too much, and the Jeep would be destroyed. Skipper tightened his grip on the car beneath him as he looked up at the walking monolith, growing closer in his vision. With each step, the Panacea walker sent billowing clouds of sand and dust, raging throughout the land below. A single step would be enough to crush all of them to paste, Aether be damned, but it didn't appear to have taken notice of them, and even if it did, it was much too slow to reliably catch them. Their target trailed behind it, the umbilical cord that stretched across the landscape, the inexorable movement of the walker making it slither like a snake. Ideally, Skipper would have liked to circle all the way around and slice the cord at the source, but with the layout of the valley, doing that would have meant giving the walker time enough to reach the Exocorp building, and that was the loose condition. Skipper let loose another flurry of shotguns as they zoomed towards the cord in the distance as quickly as possible. His grip tightened once more. "Hang in there, guys," he beseeched. "Hang the hell in there." A toy Muzazi leapt towards the pinned enemy, his feet slamming against their chest. He seized Luminescence's hilt, still protruding from the beast's chest, and pulled it free, blood gushing generously from the wound. It had not been an ideal move. The clock-like construct that hovered behind John Blair had grown larger, gaining a second ring. The wisest thing to do would have been to stay back and see what the enemy was now capable of, but that would have meant abandoning Luminescence. Muzazi kicked off Blair's body as the repurposed swiped at him with his bulky forearm, the blow narrowly missing. His thrusters sent him flying across the room, boots kicking up sparks as he ground to a halt at a safe distance. He swiped luminescence through the air, blood splattering off the blade and coating the floor. As quickly as he could, he scanned the new ring. Another 4 symbols, a pair of wings, a scorpion tail, a set of claws, and what seemed to be a normal human figure. What were the first icons again?
4 eyes of the different subspecies.
The second hand of the clock, coming into existence with the second tier, landed on the wings. Time wizard! Use your special... Sorry,
That's not the Yu-Gi-Oh theme.
You remember?
Music is.
You remember that fucking shit in the original anime? And he's like, 1,000 years Dragon!
You just do whatever the fuck you want in season 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's
so
basically
good.
D&D. Theatre of the mind.
You can't attack my harpies because they're flying in the air!
Joey's iconic harpies.
No, when he was fighting Mai, remember his
Joey
little soldier
saying it.
couldn't swing at them. I don't know, I love Joey. The second hand of the clock coming into existence with the second tier landed on the wings. What happened next was grotesque, but not surprising. Blair's eyes snapped open to their utmost, bulging out of their sockets, and a low groan escaped his throat. Burst! Flesh and blood exploded out of his back as, like parasites exiting their hosts, twin leather wings crawled free, writhing through the air like ghosts. Their wingspan was as big as the rest of Blair's body, and the muscle that supported them was just as grotesque. They flapped in place, air broiling from the pressure. Shouldn't it be an I before the L, broiling?
Yeah.
I have a question. So obviously, it's not as fast or as much variety as a Gene Tyrant, but between switching subspecies and now growing extra parts, isn't he like basically Gene Tyrant light?
Well, he would not normally be able to do this. It's because he is a fucked up repurposed man.
But so he created the second ring just in like a day?
Well, he's created it, but he couldn't really use it properly before this.
Oh. He's become something more thanks to Benassi.
What makes a king
Musashi
king?
took-
The second tier of King's Court, of course. Easy question.
Just wait till I bring out my third tier, Yugs.
Joey, you're losing yourself to the Gene Tyrant.
His third ring is just like 4 different Pokemon. It's like the Musashi took a deep breath, holding his blade ready as he adjusted his stance. He could feel it. The tempo of the battle would change from here on out. Musashi and Hadrian had been pursuing this man, wearing him down. But now the opposite would begin. Blair looked down, his agony ceasing as the wings straightened out. His eyes gleamed with malice. But they did not look at Musashi, not Hadrian. They looked at the miners gathered behind them. The wings began to move. Oh no, he's acquiring biomass. Musashi whirled around, injecting aether into his vocal cords to give his voice the power it needed. Run! Too late. Blair's speed, born of flight and aether, was such that Musashi did not have time to intercept him. A blur of crimson movement rushed between himself and Hadrian, slamming into the assembled soldiers. The resultant sound was grotesque. Screams, the cracking of limbs, the snaps of bone. Meat. When Blair stood up from his work, the front of his body was entirely coated in blood. One surviving miner, his legs pulped, tried to pull himself across the floor, but a stomp on his head put a quick end to that. Hadrian's ranged attack fired too slow, struck the ceiling. Musashi narrowed his eyes, drawing luminescence back as he pointed it towards Blair. "You will pay for that, cur!" he snarled. "I shall take your head from your shoulders!" Blair raised an unimpressed eyebrow as he luxuriated in his crimson work. "You can do that as many times as you like. But tell me, what makes a king a king?" Flash! Crackle! Musashi's aether, spurred on by duty, broiled around him like an incandescent aura. Luminescence shone like the surface of a star, white light piercing through the darkness. When he adjusted his footing, aether sparked through the now empty space. "Virtue!" he snarled, hot anger running through his veins. "And willingness to protect! That is what makes a king a king! You are nothing but a pauper!" He was just about to rush forward to allow luminescence to dance, to demonstrate to this beast just what kind of mistake he had made, when his communicator clicked back on. "A toy?" Marie breathed, her panic audible. "We have a problem." Dragon kept his eyes fixed on the second ring of the aether construct as he raised his pistols, firing them at Blair. So, has the first ring stopped spinning?
It is not.
Oh. His method of fire had become rather strange. He'd shoot plasma from his pistols, absorb them into Gemini's shotgun nearly immediately, then fire them again using his aether. Lances of blue and orange erupted from over his shoulders, zooming towards Blair at monstrous speeds. In response, Blair took flight, his mighty wings propelling him up towards the ceiling. Then, kicking off the ceiling, he lunged towards Dragon in a dive bomb, outstretched hands ready to crush him in their grip. Gemini World! Dragon vanished, and then reappeared directly above Blair, touching down on his back as he landed. Wait, how did he get high in the air? Can he swim in Gemini World? Dragon swimming through the air? How did he do that? He extended his arms out either side, firing repeatedly at Blair's wings, the plasma slowly but surely melting through the leather membranes. A snarl of pain, and Blair's mangled wings bent backwards at unnatural angles, trying to spear Dragon through on their protruding bones. One aimed for between his ribs, the other for his throat. Gemini World! Again, Dragon used the technique in a split second, avoiding the attacks and reappearing a short distance away. He let out a deep breath as Blair turned back around, eyes narrowed in frustration. This time he had definitely felt it. It had taken only a fraction of a second to activate Gemini World, but he was sure it had started at his head and then spread out to the rest of him. That was how Blair had inflicted damage on him the last time he'd used it. Should this be, add here?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Pan's words had turned his eyes to it. Gemini World was not instantaneous. It took hold gradually throughout his body. Was that something he could actually use, though, or mere trivia? The clock above Blair turned once more, and three things happened at once. His damaged wings drooped and crumbled in the dust, and his eyes shone blue with cogitant intellect. Then, with another explosion of gore, Blair's tailbone burst free from his back, writhing and elongating in the air until it became more akin to a scorpion's tail, tip gleaming with deadly promise. Whatever this Aether ability was, it seemed to give Blair the ability to alter his own form, to a limited extent. The first ring gave him the properties of different subspecies, while the alterations granted by the second were somewhat more extreme. Dragon couldn't imagine him being able to do that before the panacea had messed him up. Blair's tail lashed out at Dragon, stretching across half the room in a moment, but before it could strike true, Musashi charged in and parried it with his own blade. Standing in front of Dragon, he repelled 2 more strikes before glancing over his shoulder. "My partner's gotten into contact with me," he said, sword still ready. "There's an issue. Repurposed have entered the building through another path, and they're headed for the lab." The tail lashed out again, and though Musashi blocked it, the momentum of the impact sent him skidding backwards somewhat. I got you, King. Oh, whoops, we both did it. Dragon felt the color drain from his face as he digested Musashi's words. If the repurposed were heading for the lab, there was only one thing they could be going for, wasn't there? The last thing they needed was another gene tyrant running around. The choice he made surprised even himself. "Go," he said decisively, steadying his grip on his pistols as he took a step forward. Musashi furrowed his brow. "Hadrian." Dragon gulped, staring up at the approaching giant. "I'll stop him here. You go to the lab and stop the repurposed there. There's no time to argue. I'm sure to win because of my superior intellect." Musashi's eyes flicked between Dragon and Blair, clearly wrestling with the issue in his head. He sucked in air through his teeth. "I will be back as soon as I can," he said solemnly. "Do not die, Dragon Hadrian." Dragon smirked with confidence he didn't feel, aiming his pistols at Blair's hulking form. "I'll do my best." As he stared at his incoming enemy, he heard the quick clatter of Musashi's footsteps. The plate of bone still covered Blair's mouth, but Dragon could tell he was smiling from the lines of his eyes. "That was a foolish thing you just did," Blair said, his voice an arrogant rumble. "Together, you just managed to survive me. Alone, you're just meat." I'd put a comma after alone.
Okay.
Electric blue aether crackled through Dragon's arms, through his pistols, and coalesced at the barrel of each. His fingers curled around the triggers. He had to be right. Surely he had to be right. There was no universe where that guy would be anywhere but here, watching the show. Surely he had to be here. "I'm not alone," Dragon said clearly, hoping beyond hope that those words were true. "Right?" For a moment, the only sound was Blair's amused chuckle. Then, however, there was the unmistakable sigh of an invisible man. An invisible man that would have never missed a show like this. "You're damn lucky I'm a softie," North said. "Nightmare Underground, 11 Devils in the Rain." What a fucking name to come out. Musashi sped through the building, thrusters granting him speed beyond human limits. His feet barely touched the floor as the jets of light from his arms and back pushed him forward, weaving his way through stairwells and hallways. Blood dribbled from his wounds, aggravated by the stress of movement, but he dared not delay. After all, he was needed. I was going to try and do more, but I'm going to have to pop that. I'm like losing speed.
Even with all that speed, however, he was too late. That was obvious the moment he arrived at the lab. The devastation spoke for itself. The guards they had left to keep watch over the frozen gene tower had been pulped, crushed, and battered. One body had even been slammed into the ceiling with such force that it still hung there upside down, shattered skull pouring its slurried contents onto the smooth floor. Glass littered the ground, crunching against Musazi's shoes as he took a careful step forward. Each and every vat, including the one Ranavalona had been frozen in, had been destroyed, sparks flowing freely from chunks of ruined machinery. The consoles had met similar fates, crushed into piles of incoherent metal.
I said this shit. I knew he was immediately gonna get back out. They should have killed his ass. Ah!
Marie had beaten him here. She stood in the centre of the room, facing away from him, her hands balled, the frustrated fists at her side. "Officer Hazard," Musazi called out. "What happened here?" She looked back at him, her mouth a flat line. "Look for yourself," she sighed, gesturing to the scene with her hand. "I rushed up from the security room, it looks like they beat me to it. He's gone." Musazi bit back a curse, running a hand through his sweat-sodden hair. "Repurpose came here, then," he mused, stepping forward to join Marie. "They were trying to free Ranavalona or destroy him. It would take more than a few repurpose to kill a gene tyrant," Marie sighed, her hands on her hips. "I can't imagine them taking him out, even if that was their goal."
Wait, so the repurpose got past all the people in the building, so are they dead now too, or did they not fight back?
We don't know the circumstances yet. He glanced sideways at his partner. Were they survivors? Anyone we could question? "Afraid not, Musazi." "Damnation," Musazi said, his voice dark. He thumped his fist against a surviving chunk of steel. The situation was deteriorating by the minute. First the power going off, then this. It almost begged belief. In fact, wait. What, Marie said? "Afraid not, Musazi." Marie Hazard didn't call him...
Ah! North, you bitch!
Musazi raised his sword just in time. Even so, the punch that struck him was strong enough to send him flying back into the far wall. Concrete shattered behind his back, and when he gasped for air, he couldn't help but cough up a little blood at the same time. Without his Aether, that blow would have been fatal, and even with it, he could feel unconsciousness crawling along the edges of his mind. Marie lowered her smoking fist, which had warped into a maze of bone and blood, an unfamiliar sneer on her face. "What is it she sees in you?" she said, in a deep voice not her own. "What part of your fragile existence makes you worth debasing herself?" No, he could not fall here. He had promised Dragon Hadrian that he'd come back. As he mustered all the strength he could, rose to his feet, raised his sword, and saw that Luminescence's blade had been utterly shattered. All he held in his hands was an empty hilt. He stared down at it, uncomprehending.
No, shut the fuck up and stop reading right now. If you kill Musazi off, I'm killing you in real life.
A firework went off in his brain. Marie's features melted away as Ranavalona walked forward, their form shifting with every step. It was like that body was a hatching egg, and with an static drowning his vision and the turmoil clutched in his hands, I told Musazi had the wherewithal to feel the appropriate amount of horror.
No, I literally feel like the fucking Riddler in the new Batman. He's like, no! This isn't how it was supposed to go!
It crawled forward on four massive human arms, their movements unnaturally fluid and luxurious. It was a garden of flesh and bone, wreathed with red leaves, a spinal oak scraping up against the ceiling. From between two polyps of neural matter, a skinless canid head the size of a car wriggled free. On the other side, a human torso squirmed in the air, bloodshot eyes staring right at Musazi. Bushes of squirming tongues squelched bloody saliva onto the lab floor where it hissed and sizzled. "Look at me, little thing," it whispered with 1,000 eager mouths. "Look at my existence. I embody multitudes. I am every form of life there can be. I am the universe embodying itself. And you? You are barely a man. Puny, tiny, insignificant. Insignificant." The massive dog-like head creaked its jaw open with mechanical labour. From deep within the recesses of its throat, Musazi could see squirming electrical eels, and deeper still, a glowing white smile. "And now, slave," the smile hissed, "you will be nothing." Atoy Musazi did not often have nightmares, but he knew already that this would be one of them. Everything went black.
Oh no, I'm done reading Aetheral Space. I'm done. Guys, I didn't want to have to make this video, but I can't read Aetheral Space anymore. No.
It wasn't meant to go like this.
Well, the fact that you were going as far as to shatter luminescence tells me that the only two things that can happen here is Musashi dies or he becomes has a total character arc 180 after this. So regardless, something big is happening to him, and I'm scared. I'm very scared. I don't like it at all. He finally made up with Dragon, which means you could kill him off. I don't like it. I don't like it. Rewrite the chapter. Do it. Gun to your head. I don't like it.
Today's Aetheral fact. No repurpose came in. He heated up his body from the inside, killed everyone, took on Marie's form, and then called Musashi up here.
I thought some shit like that is what he would do, because we've seen the Gene Tyrants heat up their bodies before, like Marie did, so I was like...
But it took him a long while with that level of freezing.
Jeez. I was like, what the fuck? Can't believe this. Well, you should have just fucking killed him, Marie! Dumb! Ugh! I'm so mad. I'm so mad. I'm terrified. Here's the thing. I'm terrified to read the next chapter, even though I know your ass is going to make the next chapter have nothing to do with this. It's going to be like a whole Skipper fight with the big guy with Rune and then Dragon. Yeah. I know you're not going to deliver on this. You're not going to deliver on this until they go back to the base like, we won! And then they find Musashi's like fucking dead, or like he's Zanzanik now. Or some shit. I'm not. I'm gonna fucking cry. Oh my god. I can't handle this.
I want to say that we are now, with this chapter, we are now, after this one, we are in the last 3 chapters of the arc.
You better fucking subvert my expectations. You better.
This is what I live
Alright,
for.
guys, thanks for, yeah, I don't know.
You should never let me know you like Musashi. I can manipulate your emotions as I please now.
I'm like Flowey at the end of Undertale, where he looks all sad after you beat him up. Will you forgive me? or punish?
We'll find out next chapter. Imagine those are the fucking options on the Undertale: forgive or punish.
I don't remember what it was. Was it kill?
Yeah, it was like attack. Okay, see you guys.
Punish. Bye.